Hi, everyone, and welcome to God's Plan, Your Part, a podcast where our goal is to read the entire Bible in a year, seeking to understand God's plan of redemption while discovering daily and practically your part in it.
Hey, welcome back. Today we're looking at 2 Samuel 8 and 9, as well as 1 Chronicles 18, and we're basically picking up the story of David being confirmed as king and being blessed on every side.
Immediately, we start talking about David and his victories. So we're starting to see David taking over as king. He is very, very victorious in any and every situation that he brings the people of Israel into, which is exciting because I feel like for a while they've just been kind of like lost and meandering around and kind of wondering what the heck's going on and falling into a lot of bad things. But it is weird to me. So, like, it's kind of like that underdog I get excited about. You know what I mean? Because, like, David was actually king that whole time, and Saul's kind of the bad guy. But now David has taken over. And there's, like, definitely an awkward moment in these first sentences where he's, like, killing every third guy by, like, making lines in the dirt. And, like, I don't know. That just feels, like, kind of cruel and unusual. Like, just like odd. Like, I guess he could have just destroyed them all. Like, he could have just killed everybody. But like, I don't know. It feels like almost like a lottery game, like a game or something. It was weird. But then the rest of them that weren't killed are basically taken to be like slaves of. Is that what they use the word slaves?
They're like vassal states. They were servants, I think is
servants,
the actual term.
Okay.
So if you back it up, the last time we were in this narrative, we would have been in 2 Samuel 7 and 1 Chronicles 17. We talked about God's covenant with David, that he would give Israel peace on every side, and that David's offspring would become like a kingdom forever. And so we are seeing now through the narrative that God is in fact giving David peace on all sides. So this is a confirmation of the covenant, a sign of the covenant, that a sign that God is keeping his promise is that David is literally successful everywhere he goes. So he goes up into Syria. There's some vassal states in Syria. There's some vassal states to the south, I believe.
Can you describe that vassal?
They like have some of their own identity. Like those cities did not become Israel. But they were loyal to Israel. We have not seen Israel enjoying peace at all throughout this narrative. Even when Joshua brings the people into the land, they're being like accosted nonstop. They're at war all the time. And so God comes in and says, David, I'm going to give you peace on all sides. I'm going to make you king. I'm going to bless you into, the future. And so we see that happening when we read these opening chapters. We should see like, oh, God's doing exactly what God said he would do. So if that part is true, that there would be peace on all sides, then surely the fact that he will be a forever kingdom is also true.
Yeah. So I guess moving from there, so like they're being victorious all over the place against many different foes. But then in chapter 9, I actually really appreciate this because in Chronicles you basically get the same story as what you are hearing in chapter 8.
It's interesting. Chronicles does not talk about Mephibosheth at this point. I'll have to find out.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like that part is not in it, which is weird, but whatever. But that being said, the unique part about 2 Samuel's reading today is that David is basically searching for anybody that is in the line of Saul because he wants to extend them kindness. So that's kind of interesting. Like shows a little bit more of that like humanity piece of David. If you think of anybody who's gone through significant loss, like I was even thinking like a special person to me is my grandmother. And I was actually thinking today, like she passed away 2 years ago, but there is like pretty much not a day that goes by that I don't think of her. So that kind of like grabbed my attention because David is still mourning the loss of his really, really close friend. And because of that, he's like, okay, guys, like, does anybody know? Is there anybody within the line of Saul that is still left? So it's really cool that he wants to bless them because there is someone, it's Jonathan's son. And what's unique about him even more so is that he is crippled, and like I think he even refers to himself as a dog or something. Doesn't he say that?
He does, yeah.
He doesn't think highly of himself at all, but
Right.
and David's just like, you know what? No, I'm going to take care of you. You're welcome at my table anytime. So it's kind of cool. It's like that pay it forward idea.
There's a couple cultural things here that are important to catch. The first thing is what would have been very normal and very acceptable was if a new king comes in, all of the old king's family is destroyed completely.
That's so sad.
So like that entire line would be wiped out to ensure peace in the kingdom. So the fact that David is saying, hey, do they have any descendants? First of all, it's not odd. That's not odd. Like what's odd is what he says next.
Do they have any descendants?
Yeah.
Because you would expect.
Hey, so
him
are
to
there
be
any
like,
Saul's descendants left? And the like his people were like, oh yeah, let's get him. And he's like, yeah, like bring him in. I want him to eat at my table. So it's wild that he's allowing Mephibosheth a seat at his table. First of all, as a descendant of Saul. Second of all, as a person who is like unable to walk. Like that would not be a person seen at, like as a royal. The second thing that's really culturally important is the fact that he's eating at the table with David. That is something that is available only to like future heirs. And so the fact that he not only allows him into his household, but then also allows him to do things that future heirs would do is wild and scandalous. But David is keeping a promise that he made to Saul and to Jonathan that he would not exterminate his line. And so here we see David being honest and upright. Obviously, Saul and Jonathan have passed away a long time ago, and he is faithful to what he said, and he wouldn't have to be.
So I guess where does that leave us then? Like, what's your part for today's readings? Like, I feel like there's a lot from this story.
The reading is admittedly bizarre because what I wanted to say was, isn't it amazing how David treats his enemies? Like Mephibosheth could be his enemy's son. And I was like, oh, shoot, I can't say that when in the same breath he like killed every 1/3 in a pretty awkward way. I don't want to ignore that or whitewash that. I do think the kindness that he shows Mephibosheth, I think out of loyalty to his friend Jonathan, I think also probably out of loyalty to the Lord's anointed to some degree. We've talked at length about David's resistance to taking things into his own hands. I think the fact that he refused to do that enables him to then do this. Like imagine if David would have killed Saul in the cave.
Right.
Or imagine if he would have run Saul through with the spear. Like Mephibosheth would be like, dude, I'm not coming to your house. You're just going to secret kill me.
Yeah.
But instead, Mephibosheth is welcomed in. He's given a seat of honor. It's an incredibly kind thing that David is doing. And then on top of that, I think the fact that God is granting peace on all sides. We had a king who was not faithful to the Lord, who did whatever he wanted. And God did not bless what he did. We just read a psalm yesterday that talks about how armies and horses do not guarantee victory, do not guarantee peace. Loyalty to the Lord guarantees peace. Here, like we read that psalm, now today we have proof of what that psalm teaches. David's heart was directed to God. Because David was loyal to God, there was peace in the kingdom. And so what is your part? If you're a king... if you're a king, be faithful to the Lord, and your nation will be blessed because of your faithfulness to the Lord. Now, I'm guessing
the other 99% of us.
Since there's a lot of kings in our audience, I think that is radically applicable to all of you. No, for the rest of us, I think it is be faithful with whatever you have responsibility over and honor the Lord with it. I think it is wildly tempting on a day-to-day basis to not do that. There are so many decisions where you could take the quicker route, you could take the more effective route, you could... I don't know. Like my terrible admission is I used to talk about manipulating people into the right direction.
Oh, brother.
And that's not being faithful to God. Being faithful to God is seeking him, praying to him, asking him to act. Obviously, we don't sometimes we need to actually do something. But a lot of times we're taking things into our own hands and
not trusting that he'll
exactly
do it.
Exactly. So whatever you're facing today, if you're hearing me and you're like, I'm not really facing anything, then glory to God. It's praise God for the fact that he has granted you peace on all sides. But if you are dealing with something difficult, just pray to God about that thing that you're facing. And I think follow David's example of refusing to take it into your own hands. Don't manipulate people. Don't twist people's arms, but pray to God and ask God to move, and then be amazed at how he does move, because Mephibosheth would not be sitting at David's table if David had killed Saul himself. So I think that's your part for today. Do what you can to walk that out. Stick around for the reading, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks so much for listening to God's Plan, Your Part. If anything stuck out to you, if you have any questions, or if you'd like to receive a Bible, you can email us at godsplanyourpart@gmail.com. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, please consider supporting us through the link in our description. We love that you're on this journey with us, and we hope you have a great day. See you tomorrow.